McLaren has just dropped a bombshell on Red Bull by requesting a right of review into Lando Norris's 5-second time penalty for passing Max Verstappen off track during the 2024 Formula One United States Grand Prix. This could switch the results around if accepted, which could mean Verstappen loses 3 points and Norris gains them, resulting in a 6-point shift towards Norris's title bid. The team expressed its anger with the punishment after the race, with team president Andrea Stella claiming that the stewards unfairly interfered with a beautiful piece of motorsport. Norris made it clear that his and McLaren's view on the incident hadn't cooled by the time they arrived in Mexico. "I did what I thought was right. I still disagree. And as a team, we still disagree. I think the majority of people who were watching disagreed with the penalty that I got. So now they have acted upon it, after first stating they wouldn't challenge the decision." However, the announcement on Thursday evening that McLaren is requesting a right of review from the FIA comes as a surprise, given Stella's admission on Sunday that any right of review into the event was unlikely to succeed. "I don't think new and relevant information exists because the only evidence that we have used so far to assess our interpretation, which is in disagreement with the stewards, is what is already available," Stella responded when confronted with the proposal. "If you open up the right of review, I don't think it will ever be successful because you don't need new evidence. It's just a matter of interpretation." McLaren had deemed the matter closed, but has now reversed its view, claiming there is evidence that was not available at the time of the judgment. In the hope to claim those 3 points back from Verstappen, McLaren confirms it has submitted a petition for a review relating to the decision to penalise Lando with a 5-second penalty at the 2024 United States Grand Prix for leaving the track and gaining a lasting advantage, which we believe to be unfair, the company's statement said. "We believe there is a significant and new element that was unavailable to us at the time the decision was made. We have submitted the relevant paperwork with the FIA and will issue no further comment while this process is ongoing. We have the utmost respect for the FIA and the stewards for the difficult job that they do, and appreciate the open and collaborative relationship we enjoy with them." The appeal for a right of review will be considered on Friday at 2:30 p.m. local time in Mexico via video conference, with McLaren and Red Bull officials in attendance. The stewards will decide if there is a significant and relevant new element which was unavailable to the party, McLaren, seeking the review at the time of the decision, concerned. If McLaren is successful, a second hearing will be held at a later date. McLaren previously attempted to invoke a right of review when it disputed Norris's punishment for unsportsmanlike behaviour during the Canadian Grand Prix last year, but was unsuccessful. Changes were made to the system ahead of 2024 in an attempt to deter fake submissions. So on Friday, McLaren will have to establish that it has unearthed fresh and substantial information in order to secure a hearing to assess if Norris's punishment may be revoked. Such rights are enshrined in the FIA's International Sporting Code, where Article 14.1.1 states that if a significant and relevant new element is discovered, which was unavailable to the parties seeking the review at the time of the decision concerned, the stewards who have given a ruling or, failing this, those designated by the FIA, may decide to re-examine their decision. This right of review is comparable to Mercedes' request to have the FIA investigate if Verstappen infringed F1's then racing regulations when dueling Lewis Hamilton at the 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix. Mercedes argued that because Verstappen's car's onboard camera was broadcasting backwards during the live event, and forward-facing footage was only available once the Red Bull had finished the race and been downloaded in Parc Ferme, the additional view of the incident created new, significant, and relevant evidence that was not available when the stewards made their original decision not to investigate Verstappen's driving. The same thing happened in Austin, with Verstappen's live car feed only transmitting backwards. However, it is unclear whether this is the new data that McLaren plans to present in its right of review meeting on Friday. Mercedes' 2021 request was denied because the stewards judged that, while the newest media provided new information, it was insufficient to warrant continuing the inquiry and determining if a new decision to penalise Verstappen was required. If the stewards overturn Norris's punishment in the second stage of the right of review process, the results of the two 2024 championship contenders would be reversed in the Austin classification. And on Thursday, Lando Norris reiterated his objection to the stewards' decision to punish him for passing Max Verstappen off track at the US Grand Prix, claiming that he was no longer the attacking driver in that circumstance. Norris claims he was ahead of Verstappen approaching the apex, when the Red Bull driver emerged ahead, which Norris perceived as his title opponent pushing in too hard and earning an advantage by retaining the position off track. He claims that both he and Verstappen performed what they believed was proper under the circumstances, but he still does not comprehend the steward's decision-making process in issuing him a time penalty. I've not spoken to Max at all because he did what he thought was right, and I did what I thought was right. I still disagree, and as a team, we disagree, Norris reflected. I think what we saw with George Russell's and Valtteri Bottas's version in some ways was very similar to ours. I was completely ahead of Max. I was over a car length ahead of him. I was no longer the attacking car, he was. I was ahead of Max. I was having to defend. He was the one attacking me, and effectively, he has gone in too hard and overtaken off the track. I just maintained my position, so it is something I am sure we will discuss, as it has been a big talking point since last weekend. A lot of other drivers didn't agree with it. Teams didn't agree with it. I think the point is that he only stayed ahead of me at the apex because he went off the track. He would not have been ahead at the apex if he braked where he should have braked and stayed on the track. I think that is obvious. Norris disputed that he needed to modify his entire strategy to be more aggressive in certain situations, but he believed he could make little changes to his racing style in the future. He said that competing against Verstappen pits him against probably the best in the world, making overtaking him a significant task. It is not as easy as just saying I need to be more aggressive. Do I need to make some changes? Yes, and adapt a little more. But is everything I'm doing wrong? Also no, Norris argued. I had a lot of fun, and I respected the battle that we had. He still ended up on top, and I need to be beating him. So some little things I need to change, but I don't need to change my whole approach. Max is probably the best in the world at what he does. When I am going up against the best in the world, it is not going to be an easy thing to do. He has been racing in this position for longer than I have. I am definitely not doing a perfect job, but I'm not doing a bad job. I think there are certain things I don't agree with, but I still want to be racing. I don't want there to be rules for absolutely everything. I just believe the way I got a penalty last weekend, and the consequences of how that happened, I didn't agree with. And that's the only thing that needs to be changed. It is clear what his intentions are, and it is difficult for me to get around. What are your thoughts on McLaren launching a right to review process? Will the footage of Verstappen's front wing really bring new evidence? Or is it just a hopeful attempt at gaining more ground on Verstappen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.